the message board of the Grand Trade Concourse lit up with laughter. Actual, recorded laughter, translated into 43 languages and broadcast across the room. Kinetic slug throwers, snorted broker Yasik Drawl, his mandibles clicking with amusement. They want to defend a border colony with metal rods. Metal. Rods. Around him, dozens of alien merchants and diplomats chuckled along, some replaying the human ambassador's presentation for the third time just to laugh again. On the holoscreen behind them, the specifications for something Earth called the Mk7 coil barrel platform hovered in cold blue light. No plasma core, no energy shielding, nothing but raw electromagnetic acceleration hurling a slug of tungsten at absurd velocity. "Explain to me," Drell said, wiping a laughing tear from his compound eye, "how a stick that throws rocks is supposed to stop a Threcian dreadnought." Captain Mira Sato, Earth's junior liaison at the table, said nothing. She simply reached for her water glass and took a slow sip. She wasn't laughing. And that should have worried them. 3 star systems away, the Threcian Empire's newest dreadnought, the Ashcrown, powered toward the human colony of New Kestrel with 400 warships in formation. Grand Marshal Barack Voss stood on his bridge, arms folded, watching sensor feeds of the tiny human defense fleet. 12 ships, barely a tenth the mass of his lead vessel. "They call this a defense," Voss said, almost pitying. "Order the fleet to hold position at optimal shield range. Let them see what real weapons look like before we end this." His tactical officer hesitated. "Sir, their ships aren't charging weapons. No plasma signature. No energy buildup at all." Voss frowned. "Then what are they doing?" Nobody on that bridge would forget the answer. A single flash of light crossed the void. Not a beam, not a bolt of plasma, but something faster than their sensors could properly track. A tungsten slug, accelerated to 12 kilometers per second, punched clean through the Ashcrown's forward shield array, like it wasn't there at all. Alarms shrieked across the bridge. "Shield Generator 3 is gone. Direct structural breach, deck 9 through 14. "That's impossible," Voss whispered. "Our shields are rated against plasma cannons twice that size." They were rated against plasma. Nobody had designed them for something that didn't care about energy shielding at all. 3 days earlier. Captain Mirsa Sato hadn't always believed in railguns either. She'd grown up on Earth's rebuilt Pacific coastline, watching old war documentaries with her grandfather, a former naval engineer who'd worked on the last generation of kinetic weapons before humanity ever left the solar system. "Everyone thinks the future is lasers and shields," he used to tell her. "But physics doesn't care about looking impressive. A big enough rock moving fast enough doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to arrive." When Earth made first contact with the wider galaxy 9 years ago, humanity discovered a harsh truth. Nearly every spacefaring civilization had built their entire military doctrine around energy weapons and energy shielding. Plasma cannons, ion cascades, deflector fields tuned precisely to disperse charged particle beams. Nobody had shields tuned for solid mass moving at hypersonic velocity because nobody else had needed them. It simply wasn't how war was fought out here. Humanity, still years behind in energy weapon technology, had a choice. Spend decades trying to catch up to civilizations centuries ahead of them, or build something nobody else had bothered to counter. Fleet Admiral Diane Reyes made that decision in a closed session of Earth's Unified Defense Council. "We can't outlaser them," she said, "so we won't try. We'll outthrow them." It sounded almost embarrassing until the first test results came back. The Mk7 program went through 11 prototype failures before Chief Engineer Tomasz Kowalski finally cracked stable rail coil sequencing at scale. The breakthrough wasn't glamorous. No dramatic power surge, no blinding light show. Just a quiet control room, a countdown, and a slug of refined tungsten screaming down a 2-kilometer rail before vanishing into the test range at a velocity that made the tracking sensors momentarily lose lock. "Sweet mercy," Kowalski breathed, staring at the results. "We just made a weapon that doesn't care what your shields are tuned for." Word of Earth's primitive slug throwers reached the wider galaxy through diplomatic channels, and the reaction was almost universally the same: polite, condescending amusement. Humanity was young, eager, and clearly hadn't caught up yet. Most alien powers assumed it was only a matter of time before Earth adopted proper energy weapons like everyone else. The Threcian Empire assumed the same thing. That assumption was about to cost them dearly. Back aboard the Ashcrown, Grand Marshal Voss stared in disbelief at the growing damage reports. 3 more impacts had struck his flagship in the past 90 seconds, each one a silent, invisible line of destruction that his shields simply hadn't been designed to stop. "Return fire," Voss barked. Concentrate plasma batteries on their lead vessel. The Threcian fleet unleashed a storm of blue-white plasma bolts toward the human ships. Captain Sato, watching from the human flagship Meridian's watch, gave a calm order. Deploy countermeasure screens. Hold formation. The human ships weren't invulnerable. Plasma fire still mattered, and Earth's shields, modest by galactic standards, absorbed what they could while evasive maneuvers handled the rest. 2 human vessels took serious damage. 1, the destroyer Halcyon, lost main power entirely and began drifting, venting atmosphere from a ruptured section. Sato's jaw tightened as the casualty reports came in. This wasn't a bloodless demonstration. People she knew were dying on that ship. This was the twist nobody watching from Earth's press briefings had prepared for. That even a winning strategy came with a real, painful cost. Rescue team to the Halcyon, now, Sato ordered, voice steady despite the tightness in her chest. Continue firing pattern Delta. We finish this quickly, or we lose more people. The human railgun ships fired in disciplined, rotating sequence, never exposing more than a third of the fleet's weapons at once, always keeping enough in reserve to answer any counterattack. It wasn't overwhelming firepower. It was precision, patience, and brutal efficiency. Slug after slug tore through Threcian shielding, designed for an entirely different kind of war. Engine sections, weapon batteries, command decks. The Ashcrown itself took its 4th hit directly through an internal fuel corridor, triggering a cascading fire that forced Voss to seal off nearly a fifth of his own ship. The Grand Marshal, who once called humans primitive, was now fighting to keep his own flagship from breaking apart. Marshal, 3 escort cruisers report critical damage. 2 more are unresponsive, his tactical officer reported, voice shaking. Sir, we're losing this engagement. Voss stared at the tactical display, his pride warring with basic survival instinct. 400 warships, and they were being systematically dismantled by 12 human vessels, using weapons his entire military doctrine had never accounted for. Order full retreat, Voss finally said, the words bitter in his throat. All ships, fall back beyond weapons range. No one in that fleet had ever given that order before. It would haunt Threcian military academies for a generation. 6 hours later, aboard the damaged but intact Meridian's watch, Captain Sato sat beside the medical bay, where survivors of the Halcyon were being treated. Chief Engineer Kowalski, who'd traveled with the fleet to oversee the new weapon systems in live combat, found her there. We won, he said quietly, sitting beside her. Why don't you look happy about it? Sato watched a young crewman from the Halcyon being wheeled past, breathing tube in place, badly burned but alive. 11 people didn't make it home, Thomas. I know the numbers could have been worse. I know what would have happened if we'd lost. I'm still allowed to hate that it cost us anything at all. Kowalski nodded slowly. My grandfather used to say strength without conscience is just cruelty with better aim. Maybe that's the real difference between us and them. We built something powerful, but we never stopped counting the cost. Word of the battle at New Kestrel spread through the galaxy within days, and this time, nobody was laughing. The Grand Trade Concourse fell silent when new footage arrived, showing Threcian dreadnoughts limping home with hulls torn open by weapons. Everyone had dismissed as primitive. Broker Jacek Dral, watching the same footage that had once made him laugh, found himself staring in stunned silence instead. Grand Marshal Voss, relieved of command and facing a tribunal for the disastrous defeat, requested one final message be sent to Earth's Unified Defense Council before his court-martial began. It was short, and it was translated into every major language across known space within hours. You let us underestimate you. That was our mistake, not your trick. I hope the next commander who faces your fleet remembers what we forgot. That mercy and strength are not opposites, and that being underestimated is not the same as being weak. Fleet Admiral Diane Reyes read that message twice before setting it down. Let it be known everywhere, she finally said. Earth doesn't want more wars like this one, but if anyone forces us to defend what's ours, they'll learn the same lesson the Threcians just did. Sometimes the sound the galaxy should fear most isn't a roaring cannon. It's the quiet hum of a rail, right before it fires.